is the big overall picture in the results section, and then pick out important points that you want to help give more detail to the story. So in the exercise that we did, it said increased freezing was related to increased spectral reflectance. So that's the big story. There was increases in spectral influence. They didn't tell you yet which parts were and why it was, but the big story is, yes, there was big changes. So there is something that we can talk about. And then they go into wavelengths and correlation efficiency between measures and that maximum at 680. Now they're giving you the details. So it's those two sections. Okay. Now, going back to the methods, normally the methods is really trying to create trust and credibility about the results. Are they repeatable? So if somebody wanted to do those experiments again, they would have a good idea about how to do them, and they can then judge for themselves. And did they use the right methods? Maybe you did use methods, but they weren't appropriate. And so if they weren't appropriate, then the audience is not willing to trust, to believe those results. So having this method section here of describing what it was used, not just what, but why. The why is as important as what, because that is creating credibility of what the results mean and enable evaluation. Okay, so then the discussion, again, you don't come back to all the points, but you start to pick out what are the main story, what are the most important findings, what do these findings mean, and how should we proceed from here? So in that paper we did, our results show that it is feasible to monitor freezing stress of wheat seedlings using hyperspectral imaging that accurately reflect freezing injured wheat seedlings. So now they did one test. Now they're talking about using it as a monitor. So it's now spreading out to what is the application of this and helping the audience to start to think about it. Okay. So if we now just think about the introduction. There are many things with wheat seedlings that you could have grown. How well does the seedling establish? How fast does it grow? How many leaves are there at this stage? But they chose a freezing stress. And the reason they chose freezing stress is that wheat is planted in autumn and there is prone to damage, and that damage is going to affect yield. But how do we measure that is a problem. So they came up with the image that hyperspectral imaging, we think, can give us a way of solving this problem. And that's why we are doing this for the wheat seedlings and the way in which we did the testing. So it sets the context, defines the problem, defines the scope of the research, and states the objectives of the research. Okay? So their introduction, very simple. Low temperature freezing stress of wheat seedlings adversely influences growth and final yield of wheat. This is why we are interested in it. Really, they're interested in hyperspectral imaging and the engineering behind it. But in order to sell the story to a wider audience who maybe need to be convinced that they have to become more informed about hyperspectral imaging, they first need to show why this work is important to other people. And then they've used a very good title, I would suggest. It's accurate, it's short, it's easy to understand, and specific to what it was investigated. And the process we went on through looking at keywords, what is the research about, what techniques were used, what is studied, what were the findings. Okay, So we did it. We identified a number of keywords. We wrote those sentences and then selected the most appropriate sentence. So you can do that process. And so if we look at what is the research about, it's diagnosis, i.e. detect either healthy or unhealthy freezing stress in wheat. What is studied? It is wheat seedlings. What techniques were used? Hyperspectral imaging. And what were the findings? Stress in wheat can be diagnosed using hyperspectral imaging. This is implied, but if they weren't able to successfully do it, they wouldn't be able to publish it. So they are telling the story through their title that tells you all of this information and helps people who are interested in that topic to find it and be motivated to read beyond the title. Okay, so finally, your abstract is going to be looking like this, approximately 500 words in length. It is divided up into introduction, materials and methods, results and discussion, and conclusions, with keywords there as well. And so I've picked one abstract that was written in a previous year and just looked at the introduction they used. So this is the introduction they used. During strawberry harvesting, the half-sitting posture and long working hours required causes load and fatigue on workers and also reduces harvesting efficiency. Okay, so you get a sore back if you are always down low picking strawberries. That is the problem. It means that they become tired. They don't want to, or they aren't able to pick strawberries so easily. So this first sentence is also establishing the context. To overcome this, a tabletop cultivation method is being developed. Strawberries can be detached with stems and leaves still connected, and thus robots can be used for harvesting. Okay, so now they're saying one solution is greenhouses and having it at table, this height here, and using robots. So they have got strawberries. Harvesting strawberries is a problem for humans. One way of getting over it is using greenhouses with tabletop cultivation and robots. This research examines the acquisition of three-dimensional information from captured images. So now they're going into the robot needs to be able to detect where the strawberries are. And so this research, here they've examined why this is important. Now they're getting into the details of how they're going to do it. Three-dimensional information from captured images and the relatively high-speed movement capability of a robotic arm were examined. So they're not going to solve the whole problem. That's going to take many years, many hundreds of researchers. Their part is they're looking at this particular part, but they're telling you why this particular part is important. That is I would suggest, a very good introduction. Okay, so that's all I have to say about writing that extended abstract. Are there any questions from NTU?
Any questions or comments? Any questions? No questions from NTU?
Okay. Any questions here from Kyoto University? Yes. No, that is automatically done in the template. It is a Word document. Okay. This is a Word document, And here you have each section. And if I start to type here and I push there, the number automatically comes in. So you don't have to do any of the numbering. It's already going to be doing automatically. Not necessary, no. Any other questions? Okay. So, so please submit your extended abstract by next week, this time, to your relevant group. And then in the 25th of December, we'll have a class discussion about, or feedback about the abstracts. So that's all from here. Is there any extra information or comments from NTU?
May I ask Professor Peter to send us your PowerPoint today so we can share with the students?
I'll send the PowerPoint to Vivian.
Okay. So we can share with the students. It's a very good talk today and excellent teaching designs for students to understand extended abstracts. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Okay, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.